just across the main hallway, or stairwell B down the hallway past the elevators. If you have a mobility disability or cannot self-evacuate, please proceed to stairwell D or E for assistance by MTA staff or emergency personnel. An automated external defibrillator, AED, for use by trained personnel is in the main hallway just past the elevators. If you need assistance during an evacuation, please tell an MTA staff member or emergency personnel. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you. Let's move on to our public speakers, please.
Good morning. We have 16 members of the public registered to speak today. We ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rule of conduct and decorum. As a reminder to public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker would be Mark Sacamago, followed by Cara Girl.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. My name is Mark Sacamagno. I'm a bus operator out of the Elmer Park Depot in Brooklyn. On July 8th of last year, I was in the depot and I suffered an injury. I was taken out of the depot on ambulance and spent a week in a hospital and then 5 weeks in rehab. The MTA controverted my case. Since July, I have not received any money. I'm in dire straits right now. My landlord wants to evict me. Con Edison wants to turn off my lights. And I went to court in December. We won the case. Then Transit went and appealed it. And now it's in the Court of Appeals in December, and we don't know when that's going to happen. I'm not even living anymore. I'm only existing. Christmas dinner, I had really nothing. I had scraped together change off my table in order to buy something. I'm going to food pantries twice a week so I could get food. And, 14 years I've been here. I've worked my tail off, and, something should be done. They're doing this to people on workers' comp too many times. The Attorney General should go and investigate this because it's abuse of the workers' comp laws. We get hurt, we want to get back to work. They won't even okay a CAT scan on my foot so I could come back to work. My foot's healed, the doctor says, but he can't release me until he has that CAT scan. It's been turned down 4 times already. And I don't know how I'm going to survive. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Carla Girl, followed by David Kuffenberg.
Good morning. I'm Cara Girl, Planning and Advocacy Manager at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. I'll start by saying that PCAC strongly condemns the US DOT's decision to withdraw their approval for congestion pricing. But the cameras are staying on thanks to the leadership of Governor Hochul. 6 weeks in, the benefits of congestion pricing are undeniable. We're seeing less traffic, fewer cars, more transit ridership, and faster bus speeds around the region. From express buses to New Jersey commuter buses to the previously slowest local buses in Manhattan, riders are finally getting where they need to go faster, and it's all thanks to congestion relief. We support the MTA's legal action to defend the vast majority of New Yorkers and New Jersey residents alike who ride transit. The program is bringing in the expected benefits following 4,000 pages of detailed environmental review, and we can't go back now. The cameras are staying on. We were glad to see launch dates for the Queens Bus Network redesign on the calendar. After years of planning, public comment, and revising, Queens bus riders will see bus routes adapted to meet their current needs, but of course, we hope to see room for tweaks once implementation begins and real-life feedback rolls in. These bus improvements should also be coupled with investment and partnership from the city in bus lanes, signal priority, and camera enforcement. We continue to urge legislators in Albany to come together with a plan to fund the MTA's 2025 to 29 capital plan. So many critical subway and bus improvements are on the line. Everything from CBTC signal upgrades to resiliency projects to new rolling stock and electric buses will be delayed if our state leaders don't put their heads together and fund the plan. Luckily, we did a lot of the work for them. This month, we released a report detailing 24 potential funding streams and counting. Riders need to see investment in the capital plan, The state of good repair of our system depends on it. Thank you.
The next speaker is David Kuppenberg, followed by Elizabeth Abrams.
The three goals of the bus network redesign should be close service gaps, expand service to transit deserts, and do both without negatively impacting the core network. If the Queens bus network redesign was people-driven, these criteria would have been fulfilled. For example, the Q23 would serve the 111th Street 7 train station. The Q47 would continue to serve the Boulevard Corporate Center in both directions. The Q91 would be established, and the QM10 and QM40 would be extended to College Point. Plus, the future opportunities listed in the redesign equity evaluation would be implemented in June 2025. As part of the redesign, the B62 would be extended via 21st Street to Astoria. There is growing concern that the B62, which would operate between Astoria and downtown Brooklyn, would become unmanageable. I still think that the Q101's and B62's current route structure should be left alone, and a new service via 21st Street in the Queens Midtown Tunnel, called the Q92, would be a more efficient use of operating revenue. The service planners are more concerned with the 20 seconds buses pull in and out of bus stops than the time riders walk to and from the bus stop. What I said at last month's board meeting to the service planners holds true. Be more concerned with commute times than your bottom line. In conclusion, it's a shame that this committee fell for the service planners' excuses, hook, line, and sinker. As I said last month, the Queens Bus Network redesign proposed final plan addendum is nothing but glorified service cuts. The project must be delayed until it is done right. Thank you.
The next speaker is Elizabeth Abrams, followed by Michael Ring.
Good morning. I'm a little bit excited speaking to you. And my name is Elizabeth Abrams. I'm connected with Sydney. And I want to give you some update, the issues of the transportation for Accessoride and having to do with the drivers. I think the drivers, which is a multicultural community of the drivers, they need to be some training or use something that I sent to you. You'll get it soon, which looks something like this. It will be translator, would be English and Spanish, for example. Why? Because some of these drivers speak different languages. I have companies from Russia, one is from Asian, and meanwhile, they sometimes cannot totally comprehend the English. So they have opened the door to do that, but they need some support. So with the proposal I'm presenting is a laboratory sheet where, for example, these are words that are used in a job. For example, a corner in Spanish would be esquina, front, frente, back, atrás, left and right, izquierda y derecho. So these words would be the languages of English, but I think would give some support to the drivers in doing this. Now, another point that I was communicating with the representatives in terms of how can I get the input from them or their involvement. And I heard that, that there's 3 people that I approach, and hopefully next week I'll report it to you. It's a female, Ms. Brooks Power. She heads the transportation with a councilwoman, and also Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez has the connection, which that could be helpful, the idea I was heard. And also with Mr. Fernandez. Mr. Fernandez, he's working for the interests of the workers. So in conclusion, I love Accessoride, and I want things to be improved, to be very wonderful, a wonderful shine that will benefit everyone in relaxation.
Thank
We
you.
report next week. Thank you.
The next speaker is Michael Ring, followed by Jason Anthony.
Hi, good morning. My name is Michael Ring. I'm one of the vice presidents of Disabled in Action. I'm also the chair of the Accessible Transit Advisory Committee. And one of the proposals that we've been moving forward with at the ACTA committee is not a $1 billion project, but just a few $100,000 that might change a lot for people with disabilities, and it might make the buses run a lot faster. Currently, the decals on the front seats of every bus are a very passive kind of statement that says, "Won't you please give this seat up to a person with disabilities?" In other jurisdictions, it's a much more affirmative statement. It says something like, "This seat must be available for persons with disabilities." When I was traveling in Washington, and the seats were empty. If we had a sticker on the bus that said, "Don't sit here, leave it for someone who needs it," and please move back. The buses would have more room in the front. People would be able to come and go better. That sticker could be also on the subway. And, you know, using the word please in New York kind of means ignore the rest of the statement. I have an invisible disability. I don't look like I need a seat, but I don't get a seat. I can't hold that bar very well. So when I get on the train, no one's getting up for me. But it would be really great if everyone thought like, oh, I'm not going to sit there because I could stand. But the message on the stickers is a little too passive. I'm told there's a whole negotiation involved with the union and the bus operators. Applying a new sticker is kind of a new job. But the buses have had new stickers put on them. It says pay your fare now. That's a new sticker. It also says, you know, move to the back for, you know, social distancing reasons. It's complicated. It could be done, and it'll be a great thing if we can move forward with it. Thanks a lot.
The next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Murray Bolden.
Good morning, Jonathan. Good morning, Demetrius. Haida. Good morning, Chief. And good morning to the rest of the board. Jason Anthony, the Transit Guru. This month, let's mention the Queens Bus redesign. The reason why it was redesigned, one, almost all the routes was predated to the trolley era. That's one fact. Number two, almost all of the Queens buses have been seen what I call it, death of service. I have seen it personally myself. Because I did this test out of the blue, because I have to say this on the record. I did a trip on the Q5 and Q85, two routes that will be impacted by this. I took a round trip from Jamaica Center to Green Acres Mall. And yet, passengers were boarding both of these buses through the rear door and through the front door without paying on Green Acres Mall. And certain groups, which I won't name for security reasons, claim that service will be impacted. That is completely false. But yet again, people like myself will be disenfranchised. But I'll say to those people of the press, ride the system with me at 4 a.m. to see it for yourselves. Why are you so afraid? But let's see what happens next
Thank
month.
you. The next speaker is Murray Bolden, followed by Miriam Fisher.
Good morning. It's taken me a long time to understand how the system works, but I'm here. We all know that the traffic should move better in streets in New York. The drivers and the buses would be better. The road markings were designed for a world of 50 years ago, not for today. The lines should be informative to the driver and where a snowplow drives and not a line that nobody goes to. The signs that give drivers information as to where they're going were designed for a different era. They need to point up, they need to show us which lane we're in, and those down pointing arrows don't give the driver very much information. I would have liked to be there today because Jano's right. Coming to the office and face to face is the best way to get a job done. I can't do it in the wintertime, but I'll be there in the spring when it's a little easier for me to get around. I'm learning how to do this today. It's somebody's responsibility who's watching this video to go out there and say, what does the driver need to know today? The signs on a Walt, and tell you where you're going forward, need to give you advance information. You have to prevent aggressive drivers from cutting other people off because it creates road rage, not friendliness. I've noticed in the last few months, maybe a year, people are more engaging and willing to help me as I age. I thank them all. And I thank you all for listening today. Have a good day.
The next speaker is Marian Fisher, followed by Michael Ortiz. The next speaker is Michael Ortiz, followed by Ian Michaels.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful month. I just want to come on here to say my remarks about the Brooklyn buses redesign. First and foremost, there are a couple of cuts that are going on, and having the B103 slash from downtown Brooklyn would not benefit a lot of people and will result in more people taking longer for their trips or getting into taxis. Um, we need to do better than that, and I think we need to find alternative bus routes that go to and from there, which have the B67 and B69. Now, the next thing about it is the other buses, like the B10 Limited. It has a lot of potential instead of ending at Prospect Lefferts Gardens from Broadway Junction when it could serve the entire Fort Hamilton Parkway corridor. So that way the Maimonides Medical Center can be served. Although the B11 serves the Maimonides Medical Center, we need another bus that could serve the Fort Hamilton Parkway corridor as a whole, and the B10 bus can do just that. The B16 only serves half of the Fort Hamilton Parkway corridor. We need a bus that could serve the entirety of Fort Hamilton Parkway, and we can look no further than having the B10 Limited do so. And with that, we can have a short extension of the B16 to Utica. We already have the Utica Avenue extension proposed, and the B12 can stay as is or could be a rush route. So other than that, I think it's time that we look into having more bus redesigns like this and have more feedback from people so that redesigns can go in their favor. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Ian Michaels, followed by Christopher Greif.
All right. Good morning. My name is Ian Matthews, and I'm here to speak. The subway does not feel safe whenever I'm riding it. I don't even feel safe myself because we need like more police patrolling entrances where there's no customer service agents, as there's drug dealers, homeless holding open the gates, and they're letting riders in for free. It's a very common occurrence at the B and D stations in the Bronx, and something needs to be done. In fact, I got assaulted just a week ago because of it. And another thing, I'm noticing starting this weekend, you're not going to be running the 4 north of 161 for 4 weekends. That's going to be pretty major if you're only having one train as an alternative in the Bronx. You need to consider rerouting the Cedar Bedford Park on the D line because the D only runs every 12 minutes. That's not going to help the crowds because the 4 is a much busier line than the D. So I would consider rerouting the C to the Bronx just so we could help the D as well, because a lot of people still ride the trains on weekends. And in fact, I feel like they're just as crowded on weekends, just like during rush hours. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christopher Greif, followed by Charleston D'Souza. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christopher D. Greif as the ADA Accessibility Transportation President. Like to make one thing clear that congestion pricing, we still need the funding for accessibility. I am very glad my other advocates have mentioned about parts of buses and subways, but how about Accessoride? Who uses it? My own mother uses it. And let me say this, Accessoride gets to their destination a little more on time, getting to their destinations. And you know what's amazing is instead of staying stuck between right here at 2 Broadway, or getting stuck right near the tunnel, at least it doesn't take 2 hours and a half. It takes 40 minutes to 30 minutes from Coney Island to here. It's nice to see that for once. But as again, our elected officials, as well as some of our press need to hear this, that accessibility needs to be mentioned during this time because we need the funding for accessibility. We need this for a reason because how are we going to get more officers? We need to make sure the funding is covered. And I do want to remind that homelessness is still an issue on our subways, but the only way to deal with that is reporting it in, which we do. I have ported it in, and I thank our NYPD because we have seen people in fare evasion getting caught, as well as at night. Because when I was traveling from Albany coming back, I was on a reroute D train, and it was nice to see the officers on the train. And I have to say, it's nice to see them. But I hope we can see them more on the other lines, like the 7 line or the L line, or some of the other lines that sometimes runs like a midnight shuttle. So can we please make sure we work on that? And regarding the Queens redesign, all I'm saying is if there is an issue like this, we should also work with Department of Transportation, which is DOT. They handle the signages, they handle the bus stops, including Edmund, who is an accessibility representative, which we are working with him. So let's do it together. Let's make it safe because the future of accessibility rides with us. Thank you, everyone.
The next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Annie Pollock.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president and founder of Passengers United. So we're getting a lot of complaints at Passengers United from reduced fare MetroCard holders who used to have Easy Pay. Many of them can no longer automatically refill their MetroCards. To make matters worse, sometimes the MetroCard vending machines are broken, actually all the time, at 179th Street, Jamaica Center, and many other stations throughout the system. Now, why do I bring this up? Nassau Intercounty Express, nice bus. You have many people also on Beeline bus who have reduced fare, Easy Pay, Auto Pay, MetroCards. They cannot refill their cards as of February 1st. And so, again, Omni was not installed on Nice Bus or Beeline Bus. And now we hear that towards the end of 2025, they'll be able to have Omni on the system. No, the MTA needs to expedite it. Nice Bus has told me that they're ready to let you guys come on the property, and it's just the MTA that's been holding this up. Omni should be installed immediately, and those reduced fare Easy Pay holders should be allowed and given an additional grace period of maybe 3 or 4 months so they can keep using the Easy Pay MetroCards. What you guys have done to people in Westchester and Long Island, Nassau County is unacceptable. And the way Nice Bus and Beeline Bus has been treated is really unacceptable. And, 179th Street, you cannot even buy a regular MetroCard. Same thing at Jamaica Center. The station agent at 179th Street in the morning, the black lady, she's very rude to everyone there. And that has to end. You see the security guards helping more than the station agents helping. I mean, come on. So, like I said, it's a lot of frustration going around. And Shani Ferreira, if you're listening, please help us. Also, please put us back on the MTA press list so we can be invited to cover good events. You guys keep complaining that we never cover good stuff. Well, if we're not invited, we can cover it. So thank you so much. I think I've used up all my time. Have a good one.
The next speaker is Andy Pollock, followed by Marian Fisher.
Good morning, everyone. This is Andy Pollock, representing Passengers United. So one thing before I talk about the Queens Bus Network redesign, I want to acknowledge something, and hopefully it can be corrected today, that I did speak at last month's meeting. I looked at the committee book, and I'm like, why isn't my name in there when I was looking at it on Friday? So hopefully that can be corrected, and my name can be stated for the record today for both the Commuter Rail Committee and the New York City Transit Committee. So let's stick on topic with the Queens Bus Network redesign. It was announced over the weekend that you guys are going to start implementing it on June 29th. And I have a couple of things that I'm going to quickly say, two things here. So school trippers. I'm hoping that the Q27 bus from Bayside High School, hopefully that can still be saved, because I saw how crowded that route can get on a school day. I noticed it on Bell Boulevard a couple of weeks ago, and it was just packed to the rafters. So hopefully we can keep the Q27 school tripper. Q31, I know you guys are proposing to send it up to Bay Terrace. Hopefully we can have a dedicated Q31 trip that could be a school tripper. Hopefully it can go from Bayside High School, and hopefully it could just make the right turn onto Bell Boulevard like the Q27 currently does. And I'm just going to state this again regarding my community, Fresh Meadow. The small business owners, they, again, are devastated that you guys are going to eliminate Q17, Q30, Q88 bus stops eastbound along Horace Harding Expressway. And the hotel owners on the westbound side, they're devastated by this. So again, you have a lot of time to please reconsider not eliminating these bus stops, because nobody in Fresh Meadows wants to see this. You guys are going to devastate my community if you go through with eliminating the bus stops. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for letting me speak today, and I look forward to seeing everybody at Grand Central on Wednesday.
The next speaker is Marianne Fisher, followed by Kalia Hazlett.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm not used to using my cell. My computer's not working. I want to put something on the radar on the menu that I don't hear expressed at all. Better bus stops while we have all our new buses. 15,000 bus stops in New York City, only 17% have benches, 20% have shelter from weather. Who wants to wait 20 minutes in the snow, heat, rain? People with disabilities, seniors need to sit. We all need shelter. The outer boroughs have fewer subways, and people depend on buses to travel for everything. I presented at Manhattan Community Board for Transportation Committee in December, and they submitted a request to the DOT and to President Critchlow for seats and shelter along 23rd Street as a start. But that's only a sliver of the bus stops along the avenue in the district. Improved bus stops with seats and shelter, which is harder to acquire, should be on the agenda for all. In terms of accessibility in elevators, MTA, please sign this. Please sign the suit. A guarantee is legally is not a promise that can be broken. People with disabilities have to use the subway. Announcements of elevator outages on cars or on platforms. Not everyone has cells, which don't work everywhere underground anyway. The technology is there. Washington, D.C. has digital signs of outages. We need more bathrooms and accessibility for people in wheelchairs who need, I heard there are only 78 accessible bathrooms, 100 out of 133 totally. We need more accessibility, and we need more benches. On some stops, the benches have been taken out, especially where homeless congregate, like 53rd Street on the F and the M. People need to sit. Pregnant women, bad backs, legs, seniors. So many needs for accessibility in so many venues. Thank you for listening.
The next speaker is Kalia Hazlett, followed by Jean Ryan.
Testing. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kalia Hazlett, the Executive Director of a travel education company in New York, and also a member of the New York City Writers Council. Accessibility is not limited to elevators and escalators. As the public, we have the right that accessibility means as a paying passenger, you can get to your train safely without it raining on your head or being chased by rats. As mothers, you want the ability to carry your babies in a stroller, or as a parent with a child with a disability in an adaptive medical stroller, to get to the train without running a marathon. as a mother of 2 teenagers, I would like to make sure that they get home from school, and I shouldn't be tracking their phones like the FBI. This is a reminder that I will say in every meeting, accessibility benefits everyone. Stop making it an only New Yorkers with disabilities problem and issue. Disabled Americans are the largest minority in America. And it's the only club that you can unwillingly and unwantedly become a part of through sickness or through tragedy. And God forbid that you do. Do you want to be able to continue your life with adaptability and ease and have a dignified, full life? As a New Yorker with a disability, we also travel in a New York minute. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jean Ryan, followed by Omar Vera.
Hi, wait a minute. I don't want to start yet. I have a hearing loss, and with the hearing thing today, I can hear the people in the other room, but I can't hear the people in this room. This 2-room thing is, a problem for me. And I hope it can be fixed because I don't want to hear the people in the other room. I want to hear the people in this room. And I have 2 listening devices here that they gave me, and neither one of them work. Thank you. So now let's start. I'm Jean Ryan, President of Disabled in Action of Metropolitan New York. This year I will be frequently testifying about the unreliable access for people with mobility disabilities on MTA express buses. Every bus has a lift, but is it a working lift, and does the driver know how to use it? Also, can the seats by the lift door be moved, because often they get stuck and cannot be moved? Many drivers do not know how to move the seats. Both the lift and the moved seats are necessary to get into the bus. Service is simply terrible at night, with drivers who have not been trained and who must call and be told step by step what to do after they wait a long time to reach someone. Have you ever waited an hour on the sidewalk to get into the bus that's right there? No kidding. The time for moving seats and using the lift can often take longer than the ride does. Sometimes we get stuck on the bus once we get on. I've been taken off the bus by firefighters. I've been not able to get on the bus at all and have it take 3 buses before I can get on one. It should only take 5 minutes to get on the bus, but if I'm unlucky at both ends, it could take hours. My family is used to me saying, "Don't wait for me, I'm stuck on the bus." The only way that express buses will actually become accessible will be to have a low-floor ramp bus with a ramp in the front of the bus. Passengers with mobility disabilities and over-the-road bus companies and transit agencies would all benefit from low-floor ramp buses. Let's get serious about this and work together on it. I mean it. Thank you.
The next speaker is Omar Vera, followed by Mike Howard.
Good morning, MTA Board's Transit and Bus Committee. A couple of things. First, the leadership of the MTA, keep it up with the congestion pricing. It's working well, and defy whatever opponents, whether in the federal government or elsewhere, what they demand, because they don't know what's best. We, the people, know what's best for our city, our region, and we support this plan, the congestion pricing. Second, I might have mentioned this last month, but regarding the Queens Bus redesign plan, you shouldn't have taken off the Q50 going to LaGuardia Airport as part of the original plan, because the original plan called for that. Like, there's currently no direct service between the Bronx and LGA, so either have the Q50 extended to LaGuardia Airport as the original plan was. Or the other plan would be to extend the BX41 SBS to the airport. That's the way, because we need more connections, better service for all. With that said, thanks for having me here, and I'll see you around.
The next speaker is Mike Howard, followed by Anna Humphrey.
Morning, board. Happy February. The reason I'm here today, my topic is in my neck of the woods in Far Rockaway, y'all need to have a dispatcher out there on Beach 20th, at Seagirt Boulevard and Beach 20th Street from 2 p.m. to 9:30 or 10 p.m. Because the reason I'm saying this, because every time I travel on the Q113 or 114 bus going north, when I'm standing at Seagirt Boulevard and Crest Road, I notice bus operators lollygagging with one another. And that has to stop. The reason I said this because those two routes need to pull out on time, especially whenever I need a Q114, more Q113s come through on time. And Q114 never on time. But whenever I need the 113, more Q114s come on time, and 113 never comes on time. So that's why I say y'all need to send dispatchers out in Far Rockaway, make sure they go north and make sure they pull out on time. I mean, I noticed they have dispatchers in Jamaica going south, but y'all need to send dispatchers out there from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. weekdays. And weekends, buses are low ridership. You know what I'm saying? Have a nice month, and hopefully I'll see y'all Wednesday.
The next speaker is Anna Humphrey.
Good morning. My name is Anna Humphrey, and I'm the Transportation and Community Organizer at the Center for Independence of the Disabled, New York. We've heard from riders, including paratransit users, that congestion pricing has already made a difference on the streets. Shorter travel times and fewer delays, it seems to be working. But beyond improving traffic, we cannot afford to lose the critical funding congestion pricing provides for subway accessibility. Riders with disabilities, older adults, parents with strollers, all depend on working elevators to use the subway. We need to ensure this funding remains intact so that every station can be made accessible. At the same time, we know that having elevators is not enough if they're dirty or frequently out of service. Riders rely on the MTA's elevator outage updates, and we need to make sure that information is posted accurately and promptly. When an elevator goes down, there needs to be a plan for quick repairs, better cleaning, and real-time service alerts so that people aren't left stranded. I urge this committee to continue advocating for congestion pricing, especially as we face uncertainty at the federal level. New York cannot afford to go backward on accessibility. We appreciate your leadership in keeping these projects moving forward, and we hope you will continue to push for cleaner, accessible, and more reliable service for all riders. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation and comments. This concludes our public comment session.
Thank you very much to all our public speakers. Now let's get to business. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 2025 meeting, please. Please. Oh, you know what? We can't approve because we don't have quorum. Okay. Lisa, yeah, but we still don't have quorum with Lisa. Okay, we move on. Thank you, Dan. Anyway. Demetrius, you want to start us off with the president's report?
Sure thing. So after a few years of minimal snow, we finally had a winter thus far to kind of deal with. The snow is back this year. This year so far we've had roughly a foot of snow and about 7 snow events. I wanted to provide a little context of some of the things that are going on behind the scene as the teams prepare for the winter, so folks can get an idea of what the subways and bus team are engaged in on a daily basis. So on the subway side, it truly takes a team to get the system running in extreme cold weather. It takes about the efforts of all 30,000 employees. They all play a role in making sure that we're winterizing and maintaining our 800 miles of track, 472 stations, 493 if you include Staten Island Railway, and over 6,000 cars. His work is governed by a comprehensive cold weather plan, which is drilled by leadership each year. I'm sure you can imagine we can't be over-prepared for snow. Getting it wrong could completely discredit all of the work that the team has put in, and so we want to make sure that we get it right in every instance. During extreme cold, we look to protect all assets that are in danger of failing. For example, we know that the extreme cold causes broken rails. We know that a combination of the snow and cold will cause some of our moving assets like switches and stop arms and signals to fail. So we have to deploy resources in order to anticipate the failure, not only for the switches and locations that are moving the most, but where we have the highest ridership. And as a former signal maintainer myself, this is personal to me. It's near and dear to my heart. I love getting involved in the operations and seeing how we do what we need to do behind the scenes. Our customers generally don't see this portion of our operation. They will see the product, the byproduct of it. The trains are running, but they generally don't get a sense of how we do what we do to keep it going. When the snow falls, we turn on our switch and third rail heaters. We're running de-icer trains and adding scraper shoes to our revenue trains so that we don't get a buildup of ice on our third rail rails. And for heavy snow, we bring out the big toys, the snow thrower machine, which is our beast for moving snow. That's over 8 to 9 inches of snow. That bad boy is amazing. In our stations, the team is always ready to go. In advance, they're pre-salting, they're preparing the stairwells, they are out there to get things going beforehand. And then we ramp up the location, we pull back on some of our other uses. So our mobile wash teams, we pull inside when we know it's gonna be a heavy enough snow to start redirecting our resources so that they're focused on providing great service for our customers. Once the snow begins to fall, cleaners step up, shoveling platforms, stairwells, keeping passages clean, and chipping away on blocks of ice. This year was particularly challenging because we had the snow, and then we had this cold weather, which obviously provides a very, very challenging circumstances when we have a rain or even a slight snow. The team has to go out there and address the many different, you guys have taken the system, you know how challenging it can be in certain scenarios, but the team does an amazing job in keeping up with things. Buses team faces a unique challenge during winter weather as well, especially with snow and ice. Everyone on the buses team plays a role in keeping New York moving. Many of you may or may not know our mechanics put chains on the tires for added traction. Can you imagine one day there's no chains, the following day there's chains. They didn't get there magically overnight. It takes a really well-oiled machine to be able to have that happen so that our customers get these buses that are continuing to go. And you'll see cars stranded in the snow, and our buses continue to move. We have employees out there in multiple different locations, dispatchers, superintendents. They're all keeping an eye on the operations to make sure that things are running as they should be. And this has been especially important on days with significant snowfall, like the weekend of February 8th and 9th. Even as snow rapidly fell that evening, we were preparing to keep our riders moving, and it was truly a team effort. It's down to a science. In some instances, we have to determine if we're going to pull the Arctics off of the road. And obviously, the hard ticks spread out through the system. So we have to make sure that we continue to juggle our fleet so that we provide the service that's necessary for our customers. Even with several inches of snow and sleet on the ground, our buses were the lifeline for 1.3 million riders that weekend. Even in the snow, New Yorkers had places to go, and our buses were there for them. So in terms of our Rockaway shutdown, wanted to give folks an update on how we're doing. There's a lot of work that needed to be done in the Rockaways, and most importantly, it's important for us to serve our customers so that they can get what they need in terms of service. We've put our riders first because the work is important, and we know that it's going to have an impact on the daily lives of commuters. One point of pride has been our shuttle operation, which has kept operating from one end of the Rockaways to the opposite end. It's a very, very unique operation. If you recall, the bridge itself is out, right? So the trains that are out there have to remain out there. They don't have the opportunity to go to the shop and get tuned up, worked on, mechanics to spend some time cleaning them up. They don't have that opportunity. So the amount of work that goes into making sure that that fleet is in tip-top shape and continues to run is amazing. And the team has done an amazing job in doing that. The performance on the shuttle is at 98%. 98%. So that's really a testament to the work the team has done in making sure that that shuttle runs properly. In March, we'll be executing a swap of the shuttle fleet, right? Taking the fleet that's out there now, swapping them out. Now, if you went to the Rockaways now, you would see no bridge. It's a pretty, I was out there last week. It is pretty amazing to see, like, no bridge. So the team will be working, C&D will be working to be able to get the structure back in place, to be able to move all of those cars off the island and a whole new fleet back onto Far Rockaway so that we could provide reliable service for our customers. Our shuttle bus operations have been smooth for the duration of the project and providing direct service for Far Rockaway and Beach 67 to the A train at Howard Beach. I've been out there multiple times. One, to get a sense of how the work was going. Jamie Torres Springer and I toured the location together. But more importantly, to see how our customers are responding, to see how things are going from their vantage point. So I've taken the shuttle bus to the train and the train to the shuttle bus. I've watched the communications, what we're telling folks. I've seen the frequency of our shuttle bus service, and got a lot of positive feedback from the team on how we were doing and our communications to folks. I've seen really great work with project lead Hugo Zamora, who is also the G-Train czar. Really good work with him being out there, engaging with the community and the community representatives to make sure that we service our customers properly. We remain committed to supporting the Rockaway's customers every day until this project is completed in May. And that's my report. And I will turn it over to the modal chiefs at this point.
Demetrius, you look very cold in that picture.
I don't do well in the cold. I don't do well. Oh, I do have one more slide.
Yes.
I promised that I would give an update on where we were at fare evasion. It's been a challenge that most people have talked about left and right. Earlier this month, I had a chance to visit the EMD machine shop with Chairman Lieber, and we took a look with Subway's leadership. There was some behind-the-scenes work that's being done to harden the subway system against our fare evasion. This shop was critical in developing the backcocking initiative, which is now installed in nearly 80% of our turnstiles. You can see Steve Alardi from EMD. He was one of the leaders who was behind the solution itself, and we were able to hear directly from him how the work that they're doing is making a difference out there. We're piloting a number of fare evasion tactics on the subways and bus, and they are working at this point. Everyone keeps seeing one initiative, so they see the sleeve or they see the fin. This is all part of a concerted effort. The goal is to have all of these initiatives rolled out in a single location, and that be our strategy for affecting. The more you can get singularly these smaller individuals, these smaller populations of folks to start paying paying their fare, the more impact that we're going to have on fare evasion. But even still, from June of 24 through December of 2024, subway fare evasion is down 26%.
That's great.
26% subway fare evasion is down, from 14% down to 10%. Across buses, including both the local and express bus network, fare evasion is down by 9.1%, from 50% of riders evading their fare last summer down to 45%. So this pivotal shift of how we're doing what we're doing to be able to target these specific instances of fare evasion, and the work is that they're putting in that good work, and it's having an impact. With that, I will turn it over to the modal chiefs. Start with subways.
Okay, thanks, Demetrius, and good morning, everyone. So we have a good report on subways this month. Weekday on-time performance was up more than 2 percentage points compared to December. Subways continues to use data to drill down into the root causes of delays and is taking quick action to improve service. As an example, the J, M, and Z were among our best performing lines this month, and that was thanks to schedule changes we made following some data showing that most of our delays on those lines were caused by midday inspection and maintenance work. On the E line, we saw a near 10 percentage point improvement on that line thanks to operational adjustments we made to rush hour service. So we're continuing to look very closely at the numbers, understand what's happening in the system, and taking decisive action to improve service. On weekends, we had the highest on-time performance we've seen in well over a year, thanks to the continued hard work of our weekend service team led by Jose LaSalle, as well as great partnerships across subways and New York City Transit. I've asked that team to not only look at the on-time performance, but also make sure that we're delivering service that accommodates our customers' needs and makes sense. So based on the public comment, we're going to take a look at D-service in the Bronx on those weekends when the 4 is not running. Finally, on this slide, customer journey time performance was nearly 85%, among the highest we've seen in recent months. As we continue to focus on speeds and running times, we're also looking closely at the service interventions that we're making when incidents do happen so that we can provide better service to most of our customers. You know, as an example, there are times when incidents require suspending the B line along portions of its route. We're now suspending it much more selectively, so we're impacting fewer customers, and we have those trains in place to get back en route more quickly. So that concludes the subways report.
Can I ask a question? First of all, thank you, and that's great. Wonderful news that everything is up. When we tweak the system, how do we let our passengers know? We just blast it out or tell them? And
most of those changes are internal changes to how we're managing the service.
Okay.
If there is a schedule change, it'll become available on all the public websites, and countdown clocks will be updated, et cetera.
So they're all mostly internal that we tweak?
Mostly it's internal in
Okay.
terms of dispatching the service, putting in strategic holds so that we can make sure that the trains are arriving at the right points along the line on time.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Well, similar to our larger sibling subways, I'm pleased to report that bus performance in January showed significant improvement across key metrics compared to both previous month and last year, January 24. These gains reflect our ongoing efforts to enhance service quality and commitment to our customers. Service delivery reached 97% in January of 25. This is the highest level in 4 years, reflecting a 2% increase from last month and a 1.1% increase from January of 24. Customer journey performance time rose to 75.4%, marking a 5.5 increase from the previous month and a slight improvement over the same time last year. Bus speeds averaged 8.2 miles per hour, reflecting a 3.8% increase from last month and maintained parity with last year's performance. Our customers have taken notice of these improvements as reflected in the January Bus Pulse report, which shows significant gains in satisfaction levels across all service types. Overall satisfaction climbed to 61%, a 6 percentage point increase from the prior month, and this is the highest level since last February. Last trip satisfaction reached 69%. This was a 9% increase from the prior month. Manhattan specifically surged 10 points to 76% satisfaction, likely benefiting from the positive impacts from congestion relief zone. Express bus satisfaction rose to 79%. This is a 19% increase from the previous month, with Staten Island riders reporting a 21% boost to 70% satisfaction. It's no coincidence that the improvements in bus performance and customer satisfaction align with the launch of the congestion relief zone, which has led to faster, more reliable bus travel. Our express routes crossing the East or Hudson Rivers into Manhattan have seen notable time savings, including the SIM 4X through the U-Carry Tunnel or the SIM 24 through the Lincoln Tunnel. Customers riding these buses within the CRZ zone are also seeing faster, more reliable travel times. Every single bus route in the CRZ zone has shown improvement in average customer journey time. The top 8 routes for improved service reliability and journey time include the M's, the M8, 9, 12, 21, 22, 42, 50, and 55. And as you know, some of these are historically the worst performing. On the M22 and M42, riders experience nearly a minute less delay per trip, and many more riders complete their journey with less than 5 minutes of delay. To build on these related gains, we launched a pilot in Manhattan this month. We just launched it a week ago to test whether removing scheduled time points can further take advantage of the reduced congestion to enhance our bus speeds. The 7 routes selected are the M11, 31, 42, 50, 66, 101, and the Q32. These routes are being closely monitored, and the data will inform us for potential schedule adjustments. And, you know, I want to just echo what our president mentioned earlier about the performance throughout the snowstorms. The bus team has been spot on. They haven't missed a trick, and I know it's been, you know, a lot of work from them, but I commend them all for their actions. And then, you know, lastly, in closing, I know we have a lot more to do. You know, this bus team is committed to improving and modernizing service delivery and improving our customer experience, and that's what we intend to do in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I think, Demetrius wants to add something before Midori.
Just, look, the reality is it's a huge system, right? And if you look at the huge scale of the system, you can sometimes say, you know what, it's too hard to fix the problems. The one thing I'm really proud to see that this team is doing is taking small, incremental improvement to be able to build upon these performance data. It's not going to be one sweeping move that makes performance better for both our teams on the subway and buses. It's not. But it is what we're talking about right here. Them looking at the data and taking selective instances where we know things aren't working and then improving them. That's what's going to make a difference for our customers, and I'm very, very proud to see that this team is doing that.
Midori, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Frank and Demetrius. So I had a question about the Rockaway shuttle. So you said, you know, it was like 98% performance, on-time performance. What's the headways on those shuttles in the peak and the off-peak?
During the peak, it's approximately 5 to 6 minutes. Then
Okay.
it's 10 minutes on the off-peaks.
Okay, and do you find that those buses are pretty crowded, or do you find that the 5 to 7 minute headways during the peak hour is sufficient?
Service is more than adequate.
Okay.
We're really happy with what we're seeing out there.
Okay,
It's
well, I really
actually
appreciate that.
Too happy. So.
Yeah, and when we talk about, and I love that, when we talk about kind of on-time performance, I think it's also good to kind of marry that with like what kind of headways we're seeing. The level of service is also pretty impressive as well, and I think that deserves some due attention. I think I do have an offline question about the B68 in Brooklyn, and then it's great to see the amount of performance as it relates to the express bus, as an express bus rider myself. Would love to know when are we thinking about fleet replacement for express bus?
So we have some fleet replacement being prioritized now for the next capital plan.
Okay.
Okay.
For the
so-
25 to 29
Yes,
capital
correct.
plan. Great. Would be great, given the public comments we heard today, would be great to understand a little bit of the design process in the next group of express buses as it relates to like the lift situation. Would love to work with you and Rachel on that, on what would make sense.
Sure.
Yeah, thank
Sounds
you.
great. Appreciate it.
Dan.
Thank you very much. I have a hodgepodge of questions that came out of the public hearing and from the reports. Starting with the public hearing, one gentleman had raised the issue about complications refilling reduced fare Metro cards. Just wanted to ask the question, is this an issue that is an issue? What is happening? It sounded like it might have been a complaint about MetroCard machines as much as anything else, but I just wanted to see if it was an issue that we're aware of and if there's anything to be addressed here.
So I'll start, but I'll ask Shanifa to speak to some of the more recent things. There's no question that the current MVM machines are at the end of their life, right? So the team does a fantastic job of keeping them in service to the extent of the possibility. Fare evasion has been a challenge, so we've seen a number of instances where the entire row goes out, which clearly shows that it is not a mechanical issue with the equipment itself, but a fare evasion issue with someone who's jamming each of the machines so that they can target fare evasion, allowing people in at those locations. We work with our partners, NYPD, to give them the information so that they're aware of those locations where it's problematic for us. We've had a number of high-profile arrests tied to individuals who are breaking the machines and selling entry into the system. The other thing is that we have a really strong approach to rolling out the Omni machines, where folks can purchase an actual Omni card, moving away from the Metro cards, which is what our real strategy is. But I'll let Shanifa talk a little bit more.
Thank you, Mr. President. A lot of this, too, is grounded in back in November, December, we started sending out 1.3 million letters to reduce fare customers, letting them know that they will be joining Omni. So we have taken a host of different activities in how we are communicating with our customers, from webinars that the accessibility team, as well as New York City Transit, has been doing, and lots of publication. There has been, still a large interest in customers calling our call center. So we will continue, those dialogues to come up with strategic ways to inform the masses of the change, as well as working with transit on making sure that these machines are readily available, as well as the mobile units going out to strategic locations and neighborhoods that customers can load their Omni cards.
So just then a basic question for me. So if I have a reduced fare Metro card today, I have the ability to switch that over now to an Omni card. Is that right?
That is correct.
So if I choose to keep my reduced fare Metro card, that's where I might run into issues with the machine being out and with a problem with machines that are at the end of their life. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is there any other way to replenish a reduced fare Metro card other than at the machine?
There's the machine, there's the customer service centers, as well in the mobile units.
Okay, got it. Okay. Also from the public hearing, the gentleman who spoke up about northbound routes in Far Rockaway, Beach 20th Street, I just wanted to ask the question. I mean, it's a very specific question, so I don't necessarily expect anybody to be ready to answer. But is that something that we're aware of? Is that an issue that has been present before? It was just something that I took note of.
So regarding to the comment about the 113 and the 114?
Yeah.
Asking for a dispatcher.
Dispatcher
the
saying that
dispatcher.
the buses
Offhand,
were...
I don't know if there is a dispatcher out there off peak.
Okay, well, it might be
yeah,
worth taking a look
we'll
at.
take a look
Okay,
at it
good.
for sure, yeah.
Okay, now, Demetrius, on the fare evasion numbers, which sounded really good. First, the time period that you gave, was that June to December? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so we've been going by the quarterly numbers, so
Oh.
we use the second quarter versus the end of the fourth quarter.
So the number of subway fare evasion being down 26%, that was for what period of time?
So it is from June to December.
Okay. So if you were market in June and market in December, it was down 26% over that 6-month period of
Yes.
time? Okay. And in that same period, I think you gave the number and I missed it, for buses, you said it was also down?
9%.
9%, okay. So we've been talking about fare evasion for the entire time that I've been on the board, and I know it has been an issue well before. What do you attribute those particular, I mean, it's a more dramatic change on the subways than on the buses, but it is a positive change in both directions. To what do you attribute that success? What's happening there that is resulting in those declines?
Sure. So I think a couple of things. We'll start with the subways. On the subway side, the first thing was the rollout of Student Omni. We believe that had an impact because the students, absent of having a card to get on the system, were just evading. But there's also an enforcement of that, right? So, making sure that we're not just allowing them in, but enforcing that they should be using that student card to enter the system, whether it's a subway or on the bus side. On the subway side, the backcocking has been impactful. We do believe that the sleeves are having an impact. All of these are breaking down or changing the behavior. But the big impact has been on the gate guards in the subway system, right? So changing that gate from being the superhighway as it had been in the past and not giving opportunity for folks to walk in through the gate means that they either have to jump it or they have to go under it. It makes it a lot more difficult for folks to get into the subway system if that gate is not open. It definitely, for a person who's just a occasional fare evader, the person who has a job that works on Wall Street, chances are if that gate is closed, they're not getting on their knees to go underneath the turnstile. They're gonna pay the fare. And I think so the combination of efforts is definitely having an impact. Either this week or next week, we'll start rolling out those 3 efforts together, where we'll be doing the backcocking, the sleeves, and the fins at select locations. Now on the bus side, completely different approach. For our local bus, it was really important to enforce that back door needs to stay closed. So the bus team did a really good job of making sure that unless a person is getting off the rear of the bus, there's no reason for us to open that rear door. It forces the person to come to the front. Now, when they come to the front, they have a decision to make. Am I going to pay or not pay in front of the bus operator? In some instances, people who would normally fare evade through the rear bus will pay when they come to the bus operator at the front. But I think the Eagle teams have been huge here. 2 different strategies work. One working with NYPD, where they have undercover officers get on a train, get on a bus, observe fare evasion, get to a location where they remove the evaders from the bus. It's very public, very vocal. People see it, and then they give fare evasion summonses for all those individuals. I don't have the numbers offhand, but we could talk about how the numbers of summonses have increased as well to individuals who continue to fare evade. And then the second thing is being strategic about the locations where we see fare evasion. So taking the Eagle team members and placing them at locations where we know that there are fare evasion present, and having them standing at the location of the bus and ensuring that bus does not leave unless individuals are paying the fare when they get on the bus. It's a much more difficult problem to solve because you have so many different buses throughout the system, but the work that we're doing is definitely yielding some benefits.
Thank you for that. Just going back to the technical changes on the subway for a second. The gate guards, that's the 15-second delay, the doors closing and then staying closed, or having a gap in time. Is that
So
what you're
the
referring
gate
to?
guards are the actual individuals. We have an allied contractor.
Oh,
that
I'm
stands
sorry.
in front of the
Actual
gate.
actual guard.
Yes.
Okay, there was another technical
Right.
change that we'd made as to the emergency exit. That's
Yes.
what do we call that? Just the
That's
emergency.
delayed egress.
Delayed egress. Okay,
Right.
that's what I thought you were referring to.
Right.
Delayed egress is also something that has been piloted in some stations,
Yes.
not all stations, correct?
Yes, and we are seeing some impacts there as well. It delays the gate about 15 seconds before it allows it to open. It is definitely showing some results as well.
And how many stations is that rolled out in?
I believe we're in 3 stations with the goal of being at 100 before the end of the year.
Okay, and then 3 going to 100, and then on the physical changes that you were describing, you're using terms that I want to make sure that I know what you're referring to, the fins, the sleeves, and things like that.
Yep.
Just, because I see them like everybody, other New Yorkers see them, either on the news as a thing, or perhaps you encounter one in a subway station. They're not everywhere.
Right.
Describe what the difference is. One of them's on the side, one of them's on the turnstile itself. Just which
Sure.
is which, and if you could just tell us how far and wide they have been implemented.
Sure, and we specifically chose to put them at different locations so we could see if that changes the behavior of customers for that specific type of fare evasion. So backcocking is when a person pulls the turnstile back enough, just enough to be able to slide their body through, and that's at 80% now. That's more of a actual change within the interlocking of the actual turnstile. The second thing is the fins, which are they are tall paddles that are on the side of the casing, which prevent a person from using their weight to hoist themselves up and over the turnstile. The last thing, which we just rolled out 2 weeks ago, was the fins, the sleeves, which are on the turnstile. It's like a little hump, which prevents a person with a long gait, tall gait, from stepping over the turnstile because of the height of it. It does not allow for that. So when the 3 work in concert, the hope is that those types of fare evasion will be greatly minimized. And when you couple that with a gate guard or delayed egress, you're talking about some real efforts for fare evasion.
Have you been able to assess whether the sleeves or the fins is a more effective deterrent?
So we've seen in the data that the types of fare evasion have changed. So folks who used to jump over will ultimately, we've actually seen people even on the sleeves, they've looked, sized it up and said, I'm just going to go through the gate if the gate opens up. We've seen some individuals literally crawling underneath the turnstile as well. So it does change the type of fare evasion, but I do think a more concerted effort at one location we'll see the real results.
Okay, good. I think those are all really positive things. Okay, the last couple of things that I had, one was on the buses on the new schedule. Just wanted to for the 7 routes that you're experimenting. Could you just say again what the change is that you're toying with here, and how it's working, and how it might ultimately yield some results?
Okay. So let me explain, what we found. Many of our passengers and our bus operators certainly, as soon as the CRZ was implemented, right? Buses have scheduled time points, right, throughout the route, and that needs to in order to keep buses on schedule, maintain headways, right? And what we are finding is, more so than ever before, is the buses, in order to maintain schedule, bus operators actually had to hold up, right? Actually, sometimes sitting through a light cycle or just delay pulling out of a stop in order to stay on their schedule. And it's very frustrating to a passenger, right? Because they want to move. You can move free. So essentially, what we're doing is we're strategically on these routes removing specific time points. Not all of them, because we want to be able to regulate and keep avoid bunching and avoid major gaps, right? But allowing the buses to move freer and to see now, this is an experiment. If we remove time points, how could we maintain or improve the actual service to the customers? Less delays, right? Because you could be in between 2 time points, hold up, right? And then all of a sudden, between your next time point, you get caught in a traffic delay or an accident, right? So now eliminate many time points, allow them to run freer, and take advantage of this, you know, this relief that we've actually been finding, right? And now what could happen here is, if our schedules are freer and we actually may need a little bit less running time to run to and from, we could reinvest it in other routes that we don't have enough running time, right? So, you know, we're very optimistic about it. We think it's very innovative, and, you know, let's stay tuned. Still early to really provide with results, but we're
Understood. And
trying
which
to
are the 7 routes which you got for that?
Okay, so the M's 11, 31, 42, 50, 66, 101, and then there's the Q32 that Interboroughs comes in.
Q30, you said?
Q32.
Q32,
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
All right, great. And then my last question is really just maybe a suggestion for Wednesday. Since we're going to be celebrating Grand Central Madison, one of the questions that I'd raised at the Rail Committee, which I think is really best raised here or perhaps on Wednesday, is we're talking a lot about the impact and the number of trains that are coming in to Grand Central as opposed to Penn Station over the last number of years. It's now it's a 60-40 division, 60% going to Penn, 40% to Grand Central. But the question of what has been the impact on the 4, 5, 6 train or the 7 train or the buses right there next to Grand Central, or if we have a read anywhere on where people are going once they land in Grand Central, would be, I think, an interesting and important sub-conversation to have. And I don't know if there's anything to report at this point for Wednesday, but I did want to ask if there is, if we can find a way to share that on Wednesday. So I'll leave it there.
Okay, we'll take a look at it, and we'll also add a look at like the cross line. So the shuttle,
Yes.
which is
Right.
important.
Yes,
And
right.
whether or not we're seeing people, you know, traversing in other locations. We'll let you know.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Andrew?
Thanks for that Fairvation update. I have a question about the anti-backcocking that you're doing. Does that in any way affect a person's ability to exit through those turnstiles?
No, so that was one of the most amazing things when we went out and actually saw the turnstile itself broken apart. They modified it in one direction only, so it has no impact on the reverse where folks getting out.
So if it's not allowed to backcock, if it can't go the opposite direction from the entry, isn't that affecting someone's ability to push it to leave?
So I'm happy. I mean, maybe we can arrange for you to see firsthand in the shop, but
Sure.
it has no impact on the reverse. It's
Okay.
only in the instances where there's a rear move and then the attempt to try to come forward.
Got it. Thank you.
I think we're on with Rachel.
Thank you. Continuing along with the really positive themes from subways and buses, January was a very good performance month for paratransit, a really strong start to the year. We again saw a month of over 1 million riders served, continuing our recent trend of ridership increases. And I'm particularly happy to report that even with that ridership increase, we had an incredibly strong month for on-time performance, with 98% of trips in the 30-minute window, and our brokers providing 95% of pickups in the 20-minute on-time performance window. Similar to buses, this is attributable in part to congestion relief and the early success of congestion pricing, as well as to a number of other efforts to keep our service moving on time. It's reflected in positive customer satisfaction, as well as continued record service in our call center. And finally, I'd say in January was the first month where we had more than 20% of our trips booked by the app. So continued progress in that direction as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. We're going to move on to Chief. Thank you, Chief, for waiting so patiently. You want to give us the safety report? Crime report, I don't know what we call it. Safety report. There's no crime, there's safety.
I'm with that. I mean, in front of you have the crime figures for the first month of the year. In the month of January, the service system saw 147 less crimes, reflecting a 36.4% reduction. Or more importantly, that equates to fewer victims of major crime compared to the previous January. This significant reduction was a result of decrease across all major crime categories. Robberies were down 45%, grand larcenies were down 40%, and felony assaults were down 18%. And to be very clear, this is the continued downward trend in crime within the subway system is due to the hard work of our officers, the men and women who are out there around the clock, including our newly assigned officers who work the overnights. The Late Night Train Patrol Initiative, which city and state leadership spoke about nearly a month ago, aims to put 2 cops on every train during the overnight hours. The MTA announces the presence of our officers over the public address system, notifying riders police officers are on the train. These officers are highly visible, moving from one train car to the next, addressing any conditions they encounter, and reassuring the public who depend on the overnight subway service feel safe. I see it myself when I ride the train at night with our officers, increased comfort and sense of safety and order that our uniform presence brings to them. And I have to talk about subway surfing just for 1 second. I sat down with a group of kids from Stuyvesant High School, and they talked about how we can go after it and what we can do differently and how we can, and they did a whole presentation for me in my office, and I promised them that today when I came here, I would mention their names. I will. Next time we will. They were they were unbelievable kids. They were from Stuyvesant High School and Newtown High School. It was Ellen Kim, Philip Levinsky, Rachel Kim, Ryan Liu, and Sam Tanaka. And they presented a whole bunch of ideas from the students about how we can maybe make some changes to trains, how to work with the kids. It was great to hear from an age group that was about the same age of what we see every day.
I was just going to ask you, were they juniors, seniors, freshmen? Or they were a
Their
mix of
ages
everyone?
15 to 16, and our average subway surface is 14.
juniors.
So we were right in that demographic we wanted to see. And they had a pretty good presentation, and they sat down. And I think they'd be honored to come down here and
I was
spend
going to
some
say,
time
and I'd
with us.
love to see the presentation. We would love to see the presentation. That's great.
Yeah, and just to finish, the work between the MTA and the reductions we're seeing is a tremendous partnership, and I thank everyone here for that help. I get intel and details from people on the board and from a lot of people, but the work we're doing is making a difference, and we're really seeing a significant reduction in crime. Thank you.
Chief, for my 2 cents when I'm writing the system, to me it was all about, not only is it actual numbers, but it was also perception. People, I think, believe they feel safer now. At least the people who told me that in the beginning that they didn't feel safe for one reason or another are now telling me, I see a change, I feel more comfortable, so it's good. We're moving in the right direction. Correct, right. Right, correct.
No, and thank you for that, and I'll bring that back to the men and women. That's going to be a lot. They
Yes.
put a lot of efforts, and we put a lot of resources to making sure people feel that way.
That's great, thank you. Any questions for anyone? If not, we're going to move on to Lou. So we don't have quorum, but Lou is going to make a presentation on the procurements that we will then act on Wednesday. Thank you, Lou.
Okay, I think Tim Mulligan was here, I don't know where he is. I think he wanted to make a comment on rolling stock. But let me get into it, and then if he joins, he can speak. The New York City Transit procurement package includes 4 items this month. The first item is a request from New York City Transit on behalf of itself and Long Island Railroad and Metro North to obtain board approval to award a 5-year estimated quantity sole source replacement parts contract to Kawasaki. There's Tim. Do you want to jump in, or you want me to? All right. In the estimated amount of $122.2 million. The contract covers the furnishing of various replacement parts identified as obtainable only from or through KRC, Kawasaki, all of which are required for the agencies to operate and maintain their respective fleets of rolling stock. This is the first joint procurement contract with KRC that addresses the needs of all 3 agencies. Using this approach combines the buying power of the agencies as well as the ability to achieve the most favorable pricing and better supply chain management. Additional benefits include process efficiencies that will reduce the procurement lead time needed to award individual procurements, as well as a reduction in the number and frequency of individual purchases of various items as obtainable only from Kawasaki. The contract establishes fixed pricing for the initial 3 years of the contract that shall be adjusted based on a producer price index for the remaining 2 years. Savings of $9.5 million were achieved, and additional items may be added as required, and those would be subject to a full cost price review and cost disclosure. The agencies will continue to support their scheduled life cycle and reliability-centered maintenance programs with parts that are replaced at prescribed intervals to ensure safety, maintain high car reliability and availability, as well as improve customer service. The second and final item, which includes 3 actions, is the exercise of options to personal service contracts with PTM Management, New York Paratransit Group, and AMR All Transit in order to continue accessoride primary carrier transportation service for the Department of Paratransit. This will cover 2 years. These are the exercise of options. And PTM's contract will also include the addition of a second facility in Queens. The base contract was competitively solicited and resulted in the award of 4 contracts, each with a base of 5 years and an option to extend for an additional 2 years, and that's the subject of this procurement. New York City Transit has chosen to exercise its options with the above 3 contractors. Pricing for primary carrier service is based on an all-in operating rate per vehicle service hour and is adjusted annually based upon the Consumer Price Index. The total funding is requested for the option period April 1st, 25 through March 31st, 27 is $243.6 million. I submit these procurements for approval.
Thank you, Lou. And Tim, you wanted to add something?
No, I mean, Lou covered it just as an overview. It's a little bit, there's all these different ways that we inject competition into the spare part process, right? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you're forced to buy parts from only one supplier, right? And so for different types of parts, there's different strategies, right?
Mm-hmm.
As we move forward and we focus more on total cost of ownership, which is one thing that the new rolling stock program office is focused on, we'll be looking at spare parts because there's a major component of cost of ownership across the decades that we operate these vehicles, and also a major component of reliability. And as we move to, follow-up operating contracts that include technical assistance and elements that overlap with service, some of these parts arrangement and obsolescence avoidance mitigation plans that we have so that we don't run out of the part, 15 or 20 years in, will shift to those ongoing service and technical assistance contracts that we have with either directly with the manufacturer or with the sub-suppliers of major component systems.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Good meeting. I can't entertain a motion since we don't have quorum, but meeting is over and we move on. See everyone on Wednesday. Thank you.